Lynn, your face just disappeared when you turned and drank whatever it was.
I'm hiding my alcohol. No, not really. It's only water, pouring water.
It's the background. You know how sometimes when you if you move too quickly, they disappear.
It's 6 o'clock.
I know, and I have in this particular room, I have a real bright light that comes in this time of night too, which I was hoping the visual would take some of that away.
It's such a pretty picture.
Thank you. That's a Mars Lazar print.
Nice.
Stephen, the first time we've seen you out of your vehicle for quite a few meetings now.
That's right.
Yes, I'm here. I'm actually here. I really enjoyed Detroit. Have any of you been there?
No.
Yeah, I have, but it's been like 15 years. And what did you enjoy about it?
Well, it's funny. It was all closed up, but I stayed at the Shinola Hotel, which was really cool. And I found
hey guys, we are about to go live, so just wanted to let you know.
All right. A great pottery studio. Really cool.
Okay, we're live. Welcome everyone to the April 13th meeting of the Zoning and Design Review Board. Chair Zagorczyk.
Thank you. Yeah, I will call this meeting to order. The Town of Yountville Zoning Design Review Board meeting, April 13th, 2021. And I'll pass on to staff for a roll call.
Alrighty, Chair Zagorczyk.
Here.
Vice Chair Miller.
Here.
Member Pena.
Here.
Member Cook.
Here.
Member Jordan.
Here.
Right, all members are present.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will stand and pledge allegiance to the flag in unison as one voice. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time I'll ask if anyone has anything to add to the agenda. If not, is there a motion to adopt?
I so move for the adoption of the agenda.
And there's a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 A question about minutes from previous meetings, status, and at this point, I don't believe any have been distributed, so I won't make a motion to adopt unless I missed them.
Yeah, not yet. We are on the precipice of filling that assistant planner position, by which time we'll have a mountain load for you guys to approve.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. We will hold our approvals until then. I guess at this point, is there no public comment? I guess because the public is not in the Zoom at this point, so I will not open the public comment. And we will go ahead and proceed with the first and only, I believe, item.
Alrighty, I'm just going to admit the applicants here. Okay, so tonight the first and only item for your consideration is design review for exterior modifications, including a covered second story porch, 2 new dormer windows, new window treatments, fenestration and door placement, reconfiguration of garage doors, new wooden siding, and the reconstruction of an exterior staircase at 2180 Madison Street. I'm gonna share our presentation, 1 second. Okay. So these are the existing conditions of this property at 2180 Madison Street. It is a triplex of approximately 2,100 square feet on a 5,662 square foot lot. The applicant is proposing the following modifications. They're going to be building a 290 square foot covered second story porch that wraps around the south and west facing facades of the building. There's some photos of the existing conditions first. So this is at the corner right across from Napa Valley Lodge. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location. Okay, and these are the proposed exterior modifications. So we have a construction of a 290 square foot covered second story porch that wraps around the south and west street facing facades of the building with supporting square columns. The addition of 2 dormer windows to the south and west elevations, new window fenestration and door placement on the north and west facades, new window treatments on the south and east facades, as well as reconfiguration of the garage doors and interior garage walls, going from, as you can see, I'll go back to the, you can see it in the picture here, the 2 double garage doors to 4 single garage doors and 4 single car garages, as well as new painted wooden board siding to replace the existing wooden shingles, and raising the exterior staircase to install the new bifurcated staircase you can see here above. Here is renderings of the elevations. So these exterior modifications conform with all of the standards for Old Town for exterior materials, exterior colors, windows. There is a bit of a, less conformity with the porches. However, that's because this property already has a non-conforming porch depth. So the 4-foot, the existing porch, I can show you the photograph of it, see here, is only 4 feet deep. They will be wrapping that around the south and west street facing facades of the building. And even though this doesn't meet the 6-foot depth that the code recommends for Old Town, staff does support this non-conforming depth because it will bring the property into greater overall conformity with the code. This is at a very, visible location in town. I just want to call that out. It is one of the, gateway locations to town. It is the right off of the Highway 29 freeway entrance to, at Madison Street. So it really does have a large visual impact, probably an outsized visual impact from when you're first entering the town. So those are all of the design ordinance criteria. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Zagorczyk, for any questions of staff.
Great. Thank you very much. Just a quick process reminder, as we are still doing this remotely. I see the applicants have joined, so thank you for joining. This phase will be the members of the board asking questions, specifically clarifying questions of staff, and then at that point, then we'll turn it over to you to share some additional thoughts, whether it's you and or the architects. At which point we'll ask questions for you, and then we'll do, if there's any public comment, and then we'll discuss amongst ourselves. So that's kind of the phased approach. So you can happily stay muted at this point, and I'll start asking my fellow board members to see if they have any questions of staff, starting with Vice Chair Miller.
I do not have any questions at this moment.
Okay. Member Pena.
The only question that I have is, I was not clear. What are the parking criterias? I know that there's a garage. There's actually one extra garage. There's a garage for each unit. Is the driveway parking then considered the additional parking space like it would be in a typical single family, or is the criteria different for a triplex or a multi-unit?
Well, it is different. This property currently has 4 spaces for 3 units, which is below what we would require a new building to have.
Okay.
However, they're maintaining all of those spaces.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you, Member Pina. Member Cook?
Yes, first I have a comment. I'd like to thank staff for the preparation of this project. It was received in a really nice format with the code listed above each item, and it made it really super to understand. So thank you. My next question is, there was mention of it being a gateway to town, and the way the power poles really disrupt that corner. Is that going to change at all?
Well, I believe there is an undergrounding requirement in the conditions of approval. So that should, yes, change the visuals a bit.
Excellent. Thank you. That's the end of my questions.
Okay. Thank you, Member Cook. And last, Member Jordan.
No questions, not yet. Thank you.
Thank you. I mainly have one clarifying question myself. So the it was more just for our own education, with the porch being 4 foot deep versus we'll call it the established code of 6 feet deep. You said it would allow the building to overall, or something to that effect, conform to the code. Can you clarify what that meant, just so that we have a sense of it?
Yeah, so right now you have a non-conforming porch that is actually non-conforming in several ways. So it's only 4 feet deep instead of 6 feet deep, and it also doesn't meet the 72 square foot requirement. So those are two separate requirements that we have. So by extending the porch, you do meet that square footage requirement. However, you continue to not meet the depth requirement. So it does bring it overall, and also just the architectural element, it makes it more in conformance with some of the architectural elements that we like to see on building facades. So it's kind of a, you do weigh overall the conformingness of it. And so you'd get a little more conformance out of this, not total, but more.
That makes sense. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I don't have any further questions. So at this point, if there are no other questions of staff, one more question.
I have a
Member Miller?
question.
Yes.
I'm just curious about the roof line. Are you adding the covered porch to the existing roof line, or are you rebuilding the roof?
So that might be a question
From the drawings and from the renderings, because they don't show that where they connect the existing roof and the new portion.
I would defer to the applicants on that question.
Great, that's a perfect segue to welcome the applicants. You can unmute yourself and let us know if you have any additional comments, presentations, observations, points you wanted to make.
Well, I think first we just want to say thank you for your time, and we appreciate all of the work that we've received from staff and feedback over the time we've been working on developing this project. And it's been very helpful, and we're excited about it. So we're hoping that this goes smoothly tonight. Do you want to speak to the roof, or do you want me to speak to it, or is there anything else we want to talk about first?
Why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. I think that, as you might have read in our project description, we really saw this as a great opportunity to make this corner just much more appealing and just kind of bring out some of the character that we love about that end of town. I had mentioned in there that I used to live in Yountville, and I actually lived there on Madison Street. So I'm really familiar with that neighborhood, and I used to walk over to that park. I love what's been done with the park there. It's just really come along beautifully. And so I think that for us, having the opportunity to work on this specific building has tremendous meaning. And so I just want to be sure that we have taken into consideration really what the town would like to see, in addition to what we want to see. And then with regard to the question about the roof line, it's funny, my husband had the same question the other day. But if you go back and look at the renderings, you'll see it's actually just, we're not going to replace the entire roof. The architect and designer was really thoughtful in terms of making sure that it transitions seamlessly with the existing roof. So it's just a very slight addition on. If you look at the current the photograph of the drawing of the current building, you'll see like there actually is like a tiny little lip already that comes out from the walls.
Mhm.
Or if you like look at the roof plan, you can see that as well. It already extends a little bit. And so basically it's a continuation of that to create the roof of the porch.
Okay.
Bring it out a little bit further.
Yeah, I see that now.
You see that now? Yeah. So it's very subtle, which is great because then it just allows us to make the transition smooth and not very dramatic.
Vice Chair Miller, since you have the floor, any other questions of the applicants?
I do not believe I have any other questions right now.
Thank you. I'll circulate amongst the rest of the board just to make sure we're being comprehensive in no particular order. Member Pina, any questions of the applicants?
No, I don't have any more questions. Thanks.
Member Jordan?
No question. Say thank you to the C family for taking this thing on. You know, it's going to be lovely to see these improvements, especially the yard improvements in the front. It's just it's a nice amount of change. It's not dramatic, but it's very appropriate, I think, for where it is. So thanks for doing this. Appreciate it greatly.
You're welcome.
Great.
Sorry, we haven't gotten it done faster.
Yeah, it's worth the wait. It's okay.
And lastly, Member Cook, any questions or comments?
Yes, I will also thank you for bringing such a improvement, such an amazing improvement to such an important corner of town. We do really appreciate the effort that you put into this. I did have a couple questions. When looking at the renderings versus the drawings, the staircase side where the staircase is in the center, the staircase is as wide as the posts in the rendering, and in the drawing the staircase is much narrower. Do you know which is the intention?
I would defer to the drawing because I know the drawing, whereas I think the rendering does look a little broader than I think it would actually be.
Yeah, so it looks like it's only probably about 4 feet wide. It could be wider, but that was one question.
No, the other one. When you look down. I was wondering. I'm looking to see if he has the measurement because I thought he had it in there. Of the
Daniel, do you have the drawings? The proposed west front elevation versus the renderings? There, see how narrow that staircase looks? And then if you go to the rendering from the same view.
Yeah, it definitely looks a lot wider.
Yep.
So you think it's probably the narrower of the two?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I would definitely say it is. I think it's just the rendering has that perception to it, which I know sometimes can happen with renderings.
Yes. Yes.
But definitely it's what's on the drawing. And I was just double checking the drawing. Which one is it that I showed you a second ago? But it doesn't have the measurement. This one, if you look close.
No, but it's narrower than the dormer, and the dormer
Right.
looks like it measures out at 6 feet.
On the
Okay. My only other comment would be design-wise, the dormers look really narrow. Like when you look at the proposed south garage that doesn't have anything under the dormer accentuating it, it looks kind of small. I would almost rather see either wider dormer, but if they're just decorative, then I'd be fine with no dormers. I don't know what other people think. I'm just putting that out as my input. So those were all my questions for you. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
I did have one question for by the way, this is the first time we're going through this process ourselves, so thank you for being patient with us.
Yeah.
In the time since we submitted the plans, one question we've discussed among ourselves is on the south facing side above the garages. Right now we have it laid out to have 3 double hung windows, 3 sets of 3 double hung windows. We've contemplated whether we should put French doors there instead. That would access the living room and 2 bedrooms on that wall, and make that that open balcony porch more actually functional and usable. If we wanted to do that, are you supportive of that idea? Again, I think we need to talk to staff about logistically what we need to do, if anything, to get that approved. But that's where we just wanted your input on that south-facing wall above the garages on the second story.
I believe there actually was a note in the staff report about doors accessing balconies. I don't know if it was specific to sliding doors, so I'll defer to staff on what the guidelines are.
From a planning perspective, there is no problem with adding French doors to that part of the porch, as long as they're not, some sort of sliding French door.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to comment in addition to Kim Cook's comment about the dormers. To me, they seemed narrow, but mainly because of how far they come out. They come out to the same plane as the exterior walls down below. And it seems to me that if they were dropped back and they weren't accentuated all the way to that wall, or extended all the way to that wall, that they might not feel so. I mean, like if you imagine that there's a space inside there, it would be like a place where one person could take, walk the plank out to that window, and it doesn't really make sense. It's not really providing the illusion that I think was intended. So it seems to me that it could be dropped back. It could be an architectural venting feature or something like that that didn't seem like a dormer to nowhere.
Okay, so just to be sure that I understand, you're saying that you prefer if there was a little setback there.
It feels to me like, because you see, like I was looking at the drawing, the elevation of let's see, it's A202, and because I'm seeing in the upper drawing the length of that dormer sticking way out on the south elevation, or on the south elevation. Mm-hmm. And then on the lower drawing sticking way out to the west elevation,
to the wall.
It makes them feel very false.
Yep.
Whereas if they were held back, it feels like it might be more realistic. And if they were changed from a window to some kind of a venting solution, it might not make them feel so narrow or so extended.
I think you nailed that, Stephen. I think that's what I think that's an improvement. Are they functional?
No, it's just decorative. We just felt that the current roof just seems to have this mass to it. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to do something to break that massing up. And so I had suggested dormers just because, well, I come from the East Coast and I love dormers. So I thought, oh, well, let's see how that would look. But I love the feedback because I think it's hard sometimes to get it right. And so I think that what I hear you saying is a good suggestion. And then when you say venting versus windows, does that look like just kind of like the wood slat vents is what you're talking about?
I mean, it could be an articulated round vent or I agree with you that breaking up that roof line is an improvement. But putting a window up there where it's pretty clear from the slope of that roof that you're not using that as a room, it kind of feels like the windows are, maybe something that feels a little pretend.
Okay.
That's a great observation. I'm going to remember dormer to nowhere moving forward. As a quotable.
And was the other alternative you said might help to widen it as well, so it doesn't feel quite so narrow? Was that what Ms. Cook said, I think?
I did, but I think Stephen's suggestion of pulling it back
it's better.
That,
okay, right.
And then it wouldn't be more costly. Yeah,
I think it feels It feels narrow because it comes out so far, whereas it wouldn't feel so narrow if it were dropped back, you know, even 5 feet, 6 feet from that facade.
I have a suggestion. Why don't you all look at the proposed roof plan on sheet A103 and determining that step back distance, because I think the new hatched overhang roof is 4 feet deep. Is that correct, Dan? Maybe 5 since it overhangs the balcony. So that'll give you some perspective on how far to pull it back.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be another case where the rendering doesn't match the drawing.
I also think that you'd want to study that in 3D because pulling it back is going to shorten it from the bottom. And so, you know, it changes in both directions. So I think that if you get it right in the plan view, then you're going to have to measure that against the elevation as well, or the rendering. The rendering could be a good tool. I don't know if you know what program this was rendered in, but the architect could probably do something pretty snazzy with his rendering and show you what that might look like.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it actually extends right over the porch. So.
It does look like
yeah.
it comes out over the porch.
Yeah,
it does look like that. The rendering, yeah.
I think
a little too far.
Member Cook very astutely observed the staircase, but then looks like we further discovered that the dormers is also out of alignment from the drawing. But all good comments. I will jump in and just echo what my fellow members mentioned. It's just a tremendous improvement on a building that I think we all sort of drive by and just try not to look at, and just you're always looking past it or around it. And so it's always really exciting when we can participate in the constant improvement and growth and beautification of the town. So really appreciate the vision and the passion. And I have one very subjective comment, but since we're in an open forum here and we seem to all be sharing thoughts, it was really mainly about the paint and the accent colors and the balance of them. So the railing is looks like more of a chestnut, darker brown, where the rest of the building is beige. And I'll open the floor after this. I'm finding myself missing a little bit more of the balance of some of that accent color, that either on the garage or on the columns. I would envision we either go more completely monochromatic on the beige or bring more of that color out. Whereas right now, because it's only being used on the balcony, I'm just seeing a very noticeable brown sort of strip without any other elements vertically to balance it out. So that's my subjective comment, but we'll certainly hear a rebuttal against that.
Well, if I may say, I think that where I definitely, when looking at the rendering, of course, I've always had this like in my mind's eye, like this is what I wanted to look at. So I looked at the rendering and I said, well, that's not quite exactly what I see. But I kind of was trying to pick a color pattern where the building was not that white that you're seeing pop up everywhere in farmhouse style, but sort of like a creamy color, and then have the natural wood accents really complement that. And so we were hoping to do the roof of the porches in the natural stained wood, in addition to doing the railings. And then I think even the not the riser, but what's the other part of the stair called? I'm pulling a blank.
Yeah.
That would be finished also in a stain. So there would be some more, and then of course the doors to the units would be of a stained wood, and the pergola that's in front of the door to the north entrance of the lower unit. So and then the fence. And so we were hoping that those other stained pieces would kind of be complementary with trying to keep it be subtle, not something so dramatic like a white and a black or a blue and a beige or something like that. The sconce is kind of, again, bringing in a brownish tone sconce as opposed to a black metal or something like that. So I tinkered with the idea of doing the garage doors in that wood, but sometimes I get nervous that the way that they face out to the road, and there's such a mass, that it would just draw attention to the garage doors. And I'm kind of trying to blend them away, because I know that the town district standards kind of would prefer that if garages were not in the front of the building at all. And I can't do anything about that. So I was hoping to kind of like have them just melt into the side of the building by keeping them the same color as the exterior walls. So those were my thoughts. I appreciate your feedback, though, to any of that.
I'm gonna weigh in here and say that I appreciate the thought that you put into it, and I think that you were successful. I actually like the division of the colors, and I think also I was appreciating the articulation of the underside of the stair and the shadow lines that are created there, and I think it's really beautiful and a very welcomed addition to the neighborhood.
I agree with Stephen. The explanation that it's unfinished, that it's finished wood and not a paint, and then the underside of the deck,
Porch, yeah,
the ceiling part of the deck with the wood. I think that would be really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I really like what you've done with that, and I particularly like what you did with the garage doors. I like the fact that they do blend in. There's not a lot of attention called to them. And I just so appreciate this design. Having walked by that building so many times for so many years, it's really a welcome change. I do want to address or just speak to the possibility of French doors on the south side. And I would not see an objection to that. I think they wouldn't overpower that particular porch or balcony, and I don't think that they would be an issue as long as they conform with everything that the staff and town requires.
Great, thank you. And circling back around, I absolutely hearing everyone's comments. I also didn't realize it was natural wood. I assumed it was a paint, but I can see how a natural wood accent on top of the beige, which I think is a warm, perfectly welcoming color. I think it works well. I zoomed in on the rendering a lot more, and I'm now really seeing that the natural wood roof and the doors. And now I would further say if the French doors matched the style of the other doors, it would again further integrate the touches of natural wood against that neutral warm beige. So the explanations are really helpful, and it sits really well with me. So thanks for working through it.
One question. If you were to replace those windows on the second floor south elevation with French doors, would you maintain the three equal divisions on the windows and make two of them operable and one of them fixed, or something like that? I thought that through.
That's a really good question, and I did actually think of that, and we haven't discussed that or don't have an answer. Do you have any guidance whether having two operable, one non-operable is a better approach, or widening the doors to where there's just two where both are operable, or any?
I'm really appreciative of, I like odd numbers in things, and I think the 3 sets of 3 is a really pleasing fenestration, and I think it's part of what makes this such a successful design. And I wouldn't want it to come back, or for you guys to work with staff and have it appear so different from what we've got in front of us tonight.
Yep. And I'm sorry, one last question on the French doors. If we do that, would we need to have? Sorry, we have a 4-year-old. Hang on 1 second.
All opinions are welcome if you want to include them in the.
My wife just took off with the 4-year-old to take him back to grandma, but so she'll be right back. But my question was, again, the French doors were sort of like a new addition we just thought of. Would you see, if we did do that all 3 sets of windows need to be changed to French doors, or if we have the two flanking ones be French doors and the middle remain windows. Again, just looking for any kind of input. We could conceivably go with all three. It's just that middle bedroom is a little bit smaller, and that's where we're not sure if it quite makes sense to have three sets of French doors, but from a design aesthetic, it seems like we might want to. So any thoughts there or guidance you can provide?
If I can say, I think I would let the interior drive that decision.
Okay.
And if you're inclined to make the two outermost into doors and keep the middle as a section of windows, as long as the design of the doors and the windows were complementary, then I think that would be fine.
Yeah, my thought was we'd want it to feel balanced and consistent, so that would be something from a design standpoint we'd want to look at. So thank you.
Okay. Or any other question?
I have one comment.
Yes.
With regard to the French doors, the garage doors, in my experience for many years, and of course in Yountville too, the south elevation and the west elevation are going to get hammered by the weather, heat, rain, wind, and French doors, in my experience, have been always maintenance heavy. So I'm just kind of adding some advice here. If I were you, I would be cautious about adding French doors on a weather side like that, because they're going to require more maintenance than you're going to want to do, especially on an investment property like this. Just a thought. And personally, I would, if I were you, I would do as many painted surfaces as possible on the two elevations, because they tend to be more long-lived on weather side like that. You know, the heat in the summer just absolutely is painful on these surfaces, and anything that's stain grade is going to take a horrible beating. So that, otherwise aesthetically, it doesn't mean anything to me either way, but just a word of caution.
He was commenting that the south and west facing sides are exposed to weather and heat, and that's harder on painted surfaces and things. So,
especially the French doors, though, they're going to take a beating. So just something to think about.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I think my one question that I would have is having to do with the comment about undergrounding utilities, and I know that was in the conditions of approval. I'm assuming that means we're just undergrounding from the pole to our property as opposed to undergrounding the whole pole.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Sandra? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, it means undergrounding from the building to the nearest utility pole, and they're located on the property. And what that does is just take the first step in undergrounding. It obviously requires a much bigger project for PG&E undergrounds the poles themselves, but if we're able to achieve individual properties along the way, it makes that overall process easier. So you won't have to go very far to underground.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like even just down here in our town, we're seeing the same requirement if you're doing work on homes. So I totally understand. I think it's a great thing for cities to ask people to do.
Yeah, and we're huge fans of that pole disappearing if that happens at some point. But yeah, for our building, we could definitely underground it.
Okay. If there are no further comments or questions, I will open any public comment at this time. I don't believe there are members from the public or anything has been submitted. All right, I will close public comment. And at this point, as a wrap up, see if anyone from the board has anything else they would like to add, comments before we proceed with making a motion. No further comments. Good discussion. I think we've covered a lot of things, so I didn't expect anything else. And at this time, I will make a signal to see if anyone would like to make a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to accept the project as presented with some minor modifications to the dormers and the second floor windows on the south side, that we would allow staff to monitor the changes and make the decision on the changes.
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you very much. And at this point, with this being our only agenda item, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, thank the applicants for all their work and partnership with the staff and contribution to the town. We're all really very excited when we come across projects like this and really are looking forward to seeing things continue from here.
Thank you again for
thank
your
you.
time and everybody's help.
Yep.
We appreciate it. We love the feedback too. It's
Yeah.
very constructive.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, with that, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay. Favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. I feel like I need a gavel. All right. Thank you.
Thank